If you want like a curated experience, pay attention to the detail, whether that's in law or in film or interior design, whatever it is, it comes down to the detail, even in how you make people feel. You ever go to someone's house and let's say that you drove there, you've been driving for a long time and you get there and they have like refreshments waiting for you and they thought about you.
Right.
You feel awesome, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the person who maybe isn't paying attention to the detail or they just don't think about it. Everything's in the detail.
Hey, I'm Armando LeDuc, producer, film actor, and owner of LeDuc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what's stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall. What's up? What's up? Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Spaghetti on the Wall right here in beautiful White Plains, New York. I didn't know this area, like I've been to New York City, but I didn't know anything about this Northeast area, and it's really nice here. I mean, it's November. Are the leaves supposed to be changing now, or they were supposed to be changing in October? What's the deal here?
Yeah, combination. They start October, they last through November. Like you said, it's super warm, which is unseasonably warm right now. We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it because what? January and February gets
freezing
cold. Mm-hmm. And does that affect your outlook? Do you get that seasonal depression?
You know, maybe a little bit. I'm generally happy, but I will say I cannot stand when it's dark and gray outside and bone-chillingly cold. So that makes me want to hibernate a little bit more. I kind of come alive more in the warmer months and outfits can be more fun.
Sure. Well, everybody, Elizabeth Douglas, family law attorney here in White Plains. We've been working together for a few months and wanted to bring her on the show because talking to divorce attorneys is super interesting as far as what happens in the stories. And I know you can't share too many stories, obviously, for confidential reasons, but I will pick your brain about, just different things about, divorce and relationships and things like that. In your opinion, how can I avoid a divorce?
Pay your wife off not to divorce you? No, seriously. I think it starts with communication, right? So like any relationship, the strength of your relationship is how much you communicate, the good, the bad, the ugly. Mm-hmm. The majority of things that people come into our office about usually stems from a breakdown in communication. And whether that breakdown leads to infidelity, financial issues, outgrowing the relationship, it always stems from something broke, whether it's super small or just got exasperated and then became huge. But maintaining that communication with your spouse, maintaining your friendship, because life is hard in general. And then if you throw kids into the mix and you throw mortgages and stressors, it's harder. So you always need to believe that your person that you come home to is actually your person and they're your teammate. So talk to them, be friends, be silly as well as serious. I think another one is just keeping it real and checking in, like checking in about like, are we still hitting our goals? Are we still aligned? What's changed? How are you doing? I think the things that we take for granted with other maybe platonic friends where you check in and you say, hey, what's up? We forget to do with our partners sometimes.
Right.
And it's big because that's your person. They're in it with you. They're out in the world every single day like you are. So checking in and communication for sure.
Communication is key. I think so. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but men aren't as communicative as women, would you say?
No, I think you're wrong there. I think
really?
Some men aren't as communicative.
That's true.
And then some are. I think it's the personality, the person itself. And then it's also about the love languages, right? Listening to how people communicate.
Right.
Because you're right. Maybe men, if we're using generalities, might not want to come home and tell you every single detail about their day, but they might be telling you something without telling you. So it's body language, facial expression, vibes. I think your job as a partner, if you want to be a good partner, is to know your person, know their love language, and pay attention to the signs. One that I hear about a lot is like people who need to decompress. So say at the end of the day, you come in, maybe you don't want to be pounded on that moment about like every single question. Maybe you want to take like a deep breath. If your partner knows you, your partner is going to allow you that time to do that.
How does somebody that's like busy, right? And they're like always sort of, I guess putting the job first. Tom Brady, for instance. We'll talk about Tom Brady. He's a busy guy. Did he put his job before his family? Has that always been the case?
I don't know about that. Not knowing him personally, wish I did, but I don't. I would say that he was a football player when he met his wife. He's got a demanding job. He's a great financial provider. And those are some of the negotiations that people make. Like when you first meet someone, after you've met their representative and when you're getting serious, there are a set of decisions, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that we all have to make. And I would venture that Giselle knew that he had a rigorous schedule, especially in season around training, and they had to navigate around that. Now, given somewhere along the way, other things broke. I don't believe for a second that that breakup is all about his job or all about him not retiring or retiring and coming back. I think that that's maybe a part of it, maybe a catalyst. But my personal belief is that no one is too busy for their partner if they don't want to be. So
maybe he didn't want to be.
I don't know. But I mean, think about President Obama and Michelle. He had a scheduled date night. Like, the dude is the president of the United States, and he made sure that there's a date night to go out with his wife. That's huge. And I think that that's how important your partner needs to be. We're all busy. And if you're an entrepreneur, or like you're, a highly sought after professional or someone who's really on their game, yeah, you're going to work a lot. You're not going to be available probably at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. But if you want to, you've got to make it a priority. So prioritize everything. Put it down on the calendar, schedule a date night, let the other person know that they're that important, that they're there, and then that's your time when you make it happen.
Obama had a date night?
Sure did.
How'd you know about this? How do you know?
Michelle told me. I read about it. He actually even said it in an interview. I can't remember where or when. It was one of the things that it was telling, because the president of the United States was telling people that his wife and his relationship is a priority.
Right.
And I think no matter what you do, your relationship has to be a priority.
Right.
And I think the majority of people give you more respect when they recognize that there's some semblance of balance. Now, given your work-life balance, if you are an entry-level person as opposed to executive management, it won't be the same. But still, you've got some opportunity to prioritize what you need to.
Do you believe in work-life balance?
Ah, boy, loaded question, Armando. I do believe in a work-life balance, but I also believe it's hard. And I will be fair and say that there's been times of my life where I have chosen not to honor that work-life balance in the way that I should. And I've made building my business or working on a certain aspect of my career a priority.
Right.
And yeah, I've certainly paid for that in my personal life in some respects at the time. And then other times it hasn't been that, because when your partner is a person who understands you and what you're trying to build, they will want to become a part of that, and they'll help you to prioritize that work-life balance.
I agree with you. My wife is definitely someone that's supportive and understands what this is and what we're trying to build, and what the not to say that it's not difficult, and conversations.
Nothing
but
worth having is easy.
Totally. Yeah. So I agree with you there. I think people nowadays are thinking too much about the work-life balance and I can't do it, and they're making too many excuses, and the grind now has become this bad word, which I don't think it is. I don't think the grind is a bad word. I think the grind is, hey, you're building, you're doing, you're creating, you're making, right? Like, and that's okay. Like, and there's seasons of it, right? Like, there's seasons to really get in there and work, and it's the season, and you're starting to make it happen, and then like when it's a little bit slower, and that those times you can like plan for that. And if you're doing the forecasting correctly in your business, I think you can find where those moments are to create, I guess, that work-life balance, maybe for the year and not necessarily for the month or weeks.
I agree with you 100%. I think grind's a great word, one of my favorite ones. I am always on my grind, whether it is working on my business, planning, marketing in my business, trying to be the best I can be. I'll do that. But at the same time, it comes back around to priority and making time for the priority. You ever hear that thing about if you're trying to fill like a jar of, I think it's like sand and jelly beans or something, you put the priorities of the big things in first, and then the sand will fall around it. It's the same thing here.
Right.
So like your partner, that they should be a priority, and you should plan out time with them first and then let everything else fall around it.
I believe that working these days has become like a bad word. And I don't know why the younger kids that are coming through,
oh my God,
have this entitlement, but and I'm not going to say all of them, I can't generalize.
A lot of them.
But a lot of them have this sense of entitlement that they're like, oh, we're going to come in and I expect this and expect that and expect. I'm like, what you can expect is to work, understand what it is that you're doing first and foremost, and then once you grasp the concept, then we can talk about increasing your pay and increasing the responsibility. But all of these kids, they're putting the cart before the horse. And I'm not the only one, right?
I agree 100%.
Okay, good.
I do not want to pay their dues.
No.
When we were coming up, you had to pay your dues, and we're not even super old. But now I do find too, even in our business, when trying to hire, some of them, not all, but some of them just don't. They want big money. They have little skill. They want to be sick on Mondays and Fridays, and they don't want to do anything they consider menial.
Yeah, it's what's the term they were calling it? Quiet quitting. Have you heard this?
I haven't. Tell me about
quiet quitting. And I could be, I could be completely wrong on it on what exactly it is. But basically, it's sitting in the job collecting the money, but not necessarily doing the work.
Oh my
right?
God, I thought it was like quitting on a Post-it note or something.
No, it's like sitting on the clock collecting money until you get the notice that like you gotta go. So and I guess it's easier to do nowadays. Although I'll tell you, since working with Lewis, creating those KPIs and the process and procedures, I think it's a lot harder for people to do that if you have your key performance indicators in place, so that oh hey, you're not really doing your job here.
Well, yeah, and then doing your job, that's when we do our job as business owners and entrepreneurs. If it's not us ourselves, we have a right hand or second in command who's checking on that, so those quiet quitters can't get away with it too long, because they've got to have ownership and accountability. And that's what I think's missing from some of this generation, is the ownership and accountability piece.
Do you think that it's because life is just easier nowadays? I mean, it is. Like, we have plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of things. Like, I guess people are content. I mean,
is it easier or is it just different, right? Because I never experienced not having plenty of food growing up, thankfully.
Right.
But I think maybe because there's more access to things like social media, and the expectations are different. I think now we're more in kind of like a gratification generation, that like instant gratification.
Right.
I don't know that we had that as much coming up, maybe.
Yeah, because things weren't as accessible, right?
Yeah,
like
that's probably what it is.
Amazon, come on. Like true. Get things like that. Like that was not heard of. Everything was, you could get things, but not that quick.
Yeah, it'd take like a week, or even like a photo. Remember when you have to drop off the film to be developed and pick it up a few days later?
100%.
That's not the case now.
Is that affecting? I mean, it's obviously affecting us, but is it affecting us in a good way or in a bad way?
I'm not sure. I think there's pros and cons to both, but I think it's definitely affecting what should be the work ethic. Kind of to what you said before, that I think something like this generation, they don't understand what's going on. I think it depends which community or which group you're talking in, right? Because if we're speaking in one of our circles, like the bubble of 8-figure firm or some other entrepreneurial endeavor, hustle, grind, push, that's embraced and it's celebrated, right?
Sure.
But you typically don't see some of the instant gratification people in those circles because they're not willing to do what it takes.
I don't know what the statistics are here in like divorce and just in general, but do you think that because of this instant gratification society that we're living in now, it is creating less of a commitment issue with relationships and like jobs and stuff like that? Like, nobody's staying in a job for 40 years anymore. Like, it's every 2-3 years they're bouncing, right?
I think about this a lot, and yeah, I think it is. I really think that it is, because the whole instant gratification, the whole swipe left, swipe right, people don't even have to bother to get to know you anymore, because if you're just focusing on like a social media platform, there's like 1,000 other profiles you can look at. At the same time, though, I think there are people who use social media or online dating, and they find quality people because they put in the time and their initial intentions right.
Right.
So.
You know how a pendulum goes.
Absolutely.
Have we swung as far as we can swing to this side yet before it starts coming back the other way? Or where do you think we are in that?
I don't know. Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Really?
Maybe. Because
a lot of people, if you're paying attention to news and social media, everybody's talking about, how the world is ending and blah, blah. And I'm like, golly, guys, look, it's life. Like, things are cyclical, everything just comes back around. People are human nature. It's the same thing, right? So it's like, I as far as the end of the world and all of that stuff, I just don't buy into any of that, because I know history, and as far as like the blip on how long we've actually been here compared to how long like the earth has been here and the universe and all of that, I mean, it's like not even a blink, you know.
So what do you think about signs of the times?
Signs of the times in biblical terms?
Yeah, because it's similar, right? We always hear about the signs of the times, and then that's what some of these people on social media are saying, right?
If we could sit down and quiet ourselves enough, I think we could also visualize what the future might hold if we just had the time to do that, right? And I think that like Nostradamus and maybe people in the Bible and things like that, I think maybe they were saying, you know, well, in the future, this is probably going to happen. And they're probably basing it on human nature, you know, how they think technology is going to change things, you know? So I don't necessarily feel like I buy into that. And even if I did, why am I, you know, going to sit around and live in fear about it if there's nothing I can do about that, you know?
A visionary type of person?
I am.
So that's why, because if you're a visionary type of person, you are already taking steps to create how you envision the future to look.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, it was so funny. And I think I told you this story. I was flying here. Mm-hmm. And I was reading the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Great book, by the way. And it was talking about affirmations and recording your voice and recording the things that you want in life. And it was so funny. In 2020, I recorded, you know, affirmations for myself of like what I wanted and how I wanted to do. It was the first time I had done that. I had always written my goals down, but I never recorded it. And one of the things was like, yeah, I'm going to make $300,000 a year and this and this and this. And like that following year broke $500,000.
Awesome.
And it was like wild to have gone back because I hadn't heard the affirmations in a while. And so it just comes to show, like, if you write it down, if you manifest it, if that's the vision, you can absolutely manifest it, whether it's bad or whether it's good, you know, like the negative you can manifest just as well as the positive, you know?
I totally agree with you. If you speak it into existence, it can become a reality. I am like a huge believer in if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. Totally true. Every time in my life, I have decided what I want, set it into motion, and spoken it into existence. It usually happens. And I think that that's super powerful.
We started recording for you in July. Mm-hmm. Which was like, you know, just about half a mile down the road in a smaller office, not small by any means, but a smaller office than you have now. Yeah. And now we're here in the temp space, which, you know, has grown by, you know, a few 100,000 feet. True. And then now we're, you know, and then in January, you're moving into your new spot, which is something that you like, you know, you're taking a leap of faith, you're all in. But I think the universe, you know, rewards people for taking risks like that.
I think fortune favors the bold. And I also think that, again, if you build it, they will come. You've got to, now, that's not saying that you don't prepare and plan and do things along the way, because failing to plan is planning to fail. But that being said, when I think back to leaving a secure job and starting a firm to my very first law office, that place was 700 square feet. The rent was very inexpensive by today's standards, and I remember being scared. Mm-hmm. But I also remember knowing that, you know what? I plan to succeed. I have this vision. You just have to make the vision clear, and it will work. And then that's been every single milestone we've hit since then. And I've never for one time thought that I'm going to fall on my face and not accomplish this, because maybe it's part of being an entrepreneur, taking the steps necessary, availing yourself of opportunity, of training and moving forward, but just knowing if you plan, you can succeed, and believing. Like you said, you recorded those voice affirmations. Mm-hmm. That's 90% of the way, in my opinion. Yeah.
It was so funny. This week, like I think 4 weeks ago, I wrote down in my schedule that I needed to buy a new podcast table, right? It was for yesterday, and I forgot that I had put it in there to go look for a table. And on Facebook, in my neighborhood, somebody's selling their dining room table for $40, and it's perfect. Like perfect for this podcast. And I'm like, what's happening? You know what I mean? It's just part, you know, won't he do it though? Won't he do it? Right? Mm-hmm. Are you Christian?
I am.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, you know, I definitely believe in God. I definitely believe that, you know, Christianity, there's things about it that I'm like, and then there's things about it that I'm like, yeah, 100%, you know?
Isn't that everything?
But that is everything.
The older you get in life too, that's everything.
Yeah, I think so. You know, so when you ask about like the end of times, what do you think about the end of times? About Revelations and all of that?
I think the Bible is real. I definitely think it's God's word. Timing and interpretation, though, history is cyclical. Let's leave it at that.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, how can you really sit here and try to feel like, did you remember it wasn't 2012. Was it 2009? There was a guy who was a pastor and was saying that the world was going to end. Did you guys hear about this? And
many people like that, though.
But he had I remember signs, billboards that he created and everything like that. And then when it didn't happen, they went and interviewed him, and he didn't really want to be interviewed. And then he had a stroke, I think 2-3 weeks later.
I don't remember him specifically, but I remember Y2K. Do you?
Yeah, Y2K for sure.
Duh.
Yeah, because everybody's always trying to end the world. What happens when we die?
That's a long conversation. I think that's for your particular religious beliefs or your outlooks. And I don't know if anyone can say that for certainty. Do
you think it's heaven in the clouds and,
me personally, no.
With wings?
I absolutely do not, no.
Yeah. How did that come about? I need to research that. How did that come about that everybody had wings and we were going to live in the clouds?
It sounds nice.
It does sound nice.
I mean, how'd the tooth fairy come about? People like to tell stories that put questions at ease and
personify that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I haven't done the research, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I got to do the research. Do you research? Are you research obsessed or just for work?
Not obsessed. It depends. I mean, for work, absolutely. Because for work, I want the most on-point case law, the best of the best. I want to be thinking outside of the box with corroborating evidence. I'm not one of those, at least in my office approach, we're going to be on our game. In my personal life, I have to be interested enough to put the effort in to do the research.
You dress well.
Thank you.
And you said that that's always been a thing for you?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I like to put myself together for sure.
So how are you, how are you shopping? You shop online or do you like to go to the store?
Combination. I mean, I'm busy. So
sure.
Online shopping is definitely convenient, but there are some times where you want to actually touch and feel the fabric. So
yeah.
It depends what I'm looking for. If I'm shopping for a brand that I already know and I know exactly how it's going to fit, it's easier to just add something to my online cart and go. So
how often does it come in and not be what you want?
It depends what we're talking about. I mean, it's the point where some of my favorite brands, I know how they fit. So I know if I'm the same weight that I was, if I hit my size, it's going to fit me.
So you're saying that brands fit sort of the same way?
Yeah, a lot of the time. I would say that for the most part, I can look at a cut and I can know if it's going to flatter me or not. I have a harder time buying shoes because with shoes, I need to try them on and see how they.
Yeah. So how do you know, I think that there's the color palettes and everything like that if you know you're a winter or a summer do you know any of that stuff?
I've heard of it. Do I use it? No.
Okay.
I'm one of those people. I know what I like. If I see it, I know it. I don't need to get 10 people's opinion. If something looks right or looks good, I'll know. So with fashion and putting myself together, that's easy because I like that. And I'm not really a trend follower. I will put on what I think looks good and then maybe people follow me. Who knows?
I think so. I mean, you definitely got good style. I wonder could you style someone else?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah? You'd be like,
the people who are closest to me. If they let me, I will do it. So for sure.
If you weren't a family law attorney, what would you be doing? Being a stylist? Oh my God,
I'd be traveling the world. I'd be doing interior design, construction, styling, personal shopping, buying for sure. Anything
oh, really?
Creative, yeah. I love a creative lens. I'm a visual person. I'd be doing that in conjunction with something media oriented. So on TV doing that, or maybe my ideal job would be traveling around to 5-star resorts and having good food and testing out stuff, and then at the same time looking at the atmosphere and the ambiance around. So what's the interior design? What's the staff wearing? Creating the whole experience.
You could totally do that in film then. You could totally be wardrobe. I think they were saying that the wardrobe for the Wakanda Forever was amazing. I can't wait to see the movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
It came out yesterday, right?
Did it? Yeah, it came out this week. Yeah, really good reviews. But yeah, I love a movie that they really do pay attention to the details, like wardrobe.
Everything's the detail though, and that's what so many people miss. Everything.
Yeah.
If you want a curated experience, pay attention to the detail. Whether that's in law or in film or interior design, whatever it is, it comes down to the detail. Even in how you make people feel. You ever go to someone's house and let's say that you drove there. You've been driving for a long time and you get there and they have refreshments waiting for you and they thought about you.
Right.
You feel awesome, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the person who maybe isn't paying attention to the detail or they just don't think about it. Everything's in the detail.
So you are detail oriented.
Oh, 100% in every single aspect of my life.
Is that something that you just, it's innate, or you had to build it?
I'm probably going to go with innate. I've been detail oriented it's just part of who I am. And also like developing and designing experience, it's important to me, whether that's at work for the experience my clients have or even at home. I love to entertain. So if you come to my house, I'm like a mini Martha Stewart, and I don't do it for effect. I do it because I enjoy it. I enjoy the detail and making whoever I'm entertaining or at my home feel welcome. I
am so not detail oriented. But because I know that, it's something that I really need to work on, because I guess I'm good at like an overview and just like seeing things from like 30,000 feet. But like if I start getting granular about things, it's just like, oof. I don't know. It's
excellent at what you do.
I appreciate that. It's not that, but I had to train myself to think that way and really be conscious of the details. How is this? And then creating support systems for things that I really just cannot stand, as far as like, the crossing the T's and dotting the I's, even though I do know that those are extremely important, part of like the whole experience, trying to find people that can support me in order to do that, but I'm always so fascinated with people that are detail oriented. The question is, do you think that detail orientation holds you back from maybe getting things done quicker?
It depends on the context. So there are certain times where definitely, like let's say in work product, for me, I'm not turning it out until I believe it's perfect. Now that's not always great, because that does slow you down.
Sure.
But it depends what the end result is. It depends what it is. There are other things where good enough is probably an easier way to scale the process. So, the jury's out. But me, myself, if I have my way, it's going to be detailed and it's going to be a great and finished product.
We're part of the same mastermind. Yep. Lewis always talks about how you can only expect 75%
absolutely
of which is fair. In my opinion, I probably don't even, I'm not even thinking 75%. Sometimes I'm getting like 50, 60,
Big struggle of mine.
Which, yeah, for sure. If that's your service standard, right? And you're like, man, this is that sort of the Ritz-Carlton, the premium, the premium products. How do you get your staff to adhere to those service standards so that you are making sure that premium stays at that without, working yourself to death? Or do you just work yourself to death?
It's a combination, and it is definitely a learning experience and work in progress. I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You want to have KPIs, key performance indicators, that are tailored to your business. So like you said, my business, we have a custom tailored white glove approach. We are not the firm for everyone. We're much more like the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons than we are the Holiday Inn. Can get a clean bed in the shower at both places, but you're not going to get that level of detail and that curated experience. Similarly with the staff, like Lewis is not wrong. For me, it's hard for me to hear that sometimes because, I want to get as close to that white glove experience as possible. I hope and would expect that most people are like me. So in my mind, initially, if I hire you, you're going to be someone who wants to do the best in your job and you're going to excel. A lot of people are not like that. So you have to, I think, let your standards in a work context be known. Have them in an achievable manner, though. So like, perfection is not an achievable standard in most contexts, right? So an achievable manner, and then help people to reach their potential or help them to be better suited to another task or maybe even a new opportunity if that needs to be the case. So I think it's also being clear. So you can't, if you're a visionary person or an entrepreneur, you can't expect others to get into your head. So that's why you want to be clear in your standards, clear in what your KPIs are, clear in what you expect of them. But again, what I expect of myself is definitely not what I expect of every member of my team, but it depends on what role they're in.
Sure. Let me ask you this. Priority wise, because this is a big, I think that's the reason why some people excel and some people fail, is that I think their priorities are off.
Agreed.
How do you, as an entrepreneur, when we're either reading a book or we're going to mastermind, or there's like a crap ton of information out there, right?
I know.
So how do you implement all of it? Right? That's number one. But at that point, how are you prioritizing what idea is going to move the needle forward? And so that's question number one. And then question number two is, at what point do you drop? Like if it's not working and you're like, hey, we've tried this enough, at what point do you jump off board? Or are you the kind of person that's just like, we're going to do this until it works?
Well, first of all, I'm entrepreneurial by nature. I wouldn't want to be anything other than an entrepreneur, a visionary, and a creator. It's the space I'm most comfortable in. With that, you've got to be flexible and you have to also plan at the same time. So business planning is a big thing. Our business, we have a business plan, we have a marketing plan, and those things, metrics sometimes make you make a change. So like you talk about implementation. Myself, just like you, I do a lot of coaching, with personal coaching and business coaching, mindset, business planning. You come back from some of these things and there's so many things to implement. It's like, oh my God, where do you start? But you start with the plan. So you start with, like you said, prioritizing. And I think in order to prioritize, you need to know where you are and where you're trying to go.
Right.
So let's say we're talking about marketing. All right, once you figure out your numbers and what spend you need and where you are, then you prioritize what is calculated to have the bigger effect, I would think, and then go backwards. And sometimes you do have to adjust. It's like with anything, you're planning, you're following this course, but as you go down, if the metrics and the key performance indicators and just the reality shows you that you've got to change course, you need to be resilient enough and prepared enough to do that. I don't think that as an entrepreneur you can be rigid and just have one way. It doesn't work.
How do you talk to, and I feel you on that, there's a really good book called Rocket Fuel. Have you read it?
I have recently.
Yeah. You know, where it talks about like how the visionaries are all like this, and now this, and now this, you know, and obviously as the bigger the company grows, the harder it is to pivot with everybody, right? So how do you, I guess, when, you know, that plan that you have is it's going, but then it's like, hey, this is probably a better way to do this. For instance, you have to, maybe there's a technological tool that has come into your space, whether it's a new CRM or whatever. How are you pivoting to start using that? And how much money and time do you spend on doing that? And if it doesn't work, and this is the reason I'm asking, is that, like, for instance, I have a system for like my invoices and brochures and everything like that. But then I also have another thing for like bookkeeping, and then I have another thing for like my CRM. It'd be great if they were all together. I have my staff trained on all three of these things, right? But there is another program that's coming out that I think could encompass all of these things. How would you get your team involved in migrating all of that into this new program, but not so much so that if this new program doesn't work, that you still have the old stuff? Like, how would you handle that?
All right, that's a lot to answer.
I know, right? Yeah.
So the first thing is like entrepreneurial business owner. You got to roll with the punches and changes. That's for one. So I'm open to that stuff. It's going to happen. The second is recognizing that you don't know everything about everything. So tech stuff, I love technology. I think it can help us. Anything that comes out that can help us do our job faster, smarter, I'm here for it, right? But at the same time, like we were talking about certain generations of people, the younger generations, not that I'm old, because I don't think I am, but the younger generation definitely are up on tech. So if I don't have them on my team already, I'm going to hire people who know more about it and better than me, because I'm not trying to pretend to be a tech guru, but I can certainly hire one or work with them and get consulting. The next thing too is talking to my team. One thing that I love about our firm and our culture is that we have a team approach, and talking's half the battle. I don't claim to know every single pain point that each employee has about our tech. So talking to them and getting to know regularly, maybe they're going to bring something to my attention that a new piece of equipment might fix, or a new system. So like with your example, we're going to implement it. We're going to work with the person in that branch of our company who is going to onboard. We'll call that company, see if we can get a demonstration going on, a team training, go through, analyze our KPIs, see if it makes sense for us. And then there's trial and error. I mean, if you have something awesome and you try it and it doesn't work, what do you really lose? At least you tried it, as opposed to you might have lost the opportunity. But it's also going to be from some kind of like need or like beta test that you do before, because I wouldn't suggest going out and spending thousands of dollars for no reason. But if there's something new that's going to make our life easier, we try it. Awesome. If it works, super win. If it doesn't work, all right, we'll try something else. but definitely better than going back to just paper and pen, right?
Heck yeah. Well, cool. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your success.
Thank you.
And what we're going to be creating in the next few months. And
it's great working with you. Love being around other visionary people, and
Thanks.
I really enjoy some of the things we're creating together. And you too have opened my mind to a lot of reach that needs to be had with social media, with showing a creative side, to showing who you are past work. I think that's cool.
Thanks. That's very, very cool. Elizabeth Douglas, go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
You can find me at the Douglas Family Law Group, 245 Stop. You can find me at the Douglas Family Law Group, 50 Main Street, Suite 935, White Plains, New York, 10606. Of course, online at douglaslaw.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. We're about it. See you
Very
soon.
good. Elizabeth Douglas, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, thank you guys for watching Spaghetti on the Wall, brought to you by LeDuc Entertainment. For all of your digital marketing needs, social media, make a video. It's out. Watch it.
Make
Take
a
look.
video.
And find Spaghetti on the Wall everywhere where you can find podcasts. Spotify, Apple Music. You can watch it on YouTube. And look forward to hearing from you guys. If you guys want us to cover anything, hit me up in the comments. And thank you guys so much. And we'll see y'all next time.